The future is shaped by daily choices, not distant dreams. Most people give extraordinary attention to what they want someday, but very little attention to what they are doing today. They think the future is a place you arrive at, when in reality the future is something you build quietly, patiently, through the decisions you make when no one is watching. Dreams are important, but dreams alone don't carry bricks. Dreams draw the picture, but daily choices lay the foundation. Every life eventually becomes a reflection of what a person repeatedly chooses, not what they occasionally desire. It's easy to fall in love with big visions because they feel exciting and inspiring. A better job, better health, financial freedom, respect, confidence, peace of mind. These ideas sound powerful, but ideas without action are only wishes wearing fancy clothes. The mistake people make is believing that one big decision someday will fix everything. They wait for the right moment, the perfect opportunity, or a surge of motivation. But the truth is, life doesn't change in moments of inspiration. It changes in moments of discipline. What you eat today, how you speak today, how you manage your time today, what you allow into your mind today, all of it is quietly negotiating with your future. Daily choices are often small, almost invisible. That's why they're dangerous when neglected and powerful when practiced. Skipping one workout doesn't seem like much. Avoiding one difficult conversation feels harmless. Postponing one productive hour feels justified. But these small choices don't stand alone. They gather. They form patterns. And patterns eventually form outcomes. No one drifts into success, but many drift into regret, because drifting requires no daily decision at all. The future doesn't respond to intention. It responds to preparation. And preparation is nothing more than a series of disciplined choices made long before the results show up. People are often surprised by where they end up, but life is never surprised. Life simply delivers what has been ordered through daily behavior. If you consistently order comfort, convenience, and excuses, life delivers limitation. If you consistently order growth, learning, and responsibility, life delivers progress. What makes daily choices so powerful is that they compound. Just like interest in a bank account, small actions gain momentum over time. Reading 10 pages a day doesn't seem heroic, but over a year it builds wisdom. Saving a small amount daily doesn't feel impressive, but over time it builds security. Speaking kindly every day doesn't feel dramatic, but over time it builds strong relationships. The compounding effect works, whether you pay attention to it or not. The question is not whether your habits are compounding, but in which direction. People often ask why change feels slow at first. It's because the early stages of discipline build roots, not fruits. The growth is happening underground where no one applauds. Most quit during this phase because they expect immediate rewards. But the future doesn't announce itself early. It waits. It watches. And then one day, seemingly all at once, the results appear. By then, the habits are already in control. Daily choices also reveal character. When no one is watching, when there's no pressure, no reward, no applause, what you choose in those moments tells the truth about who you are becoming. Character is not built in emergencies. It is revealed in them. Character is built in routine. The way you treat ordinary days determines how you handle extraordinary ones. If you practice discipline in small things, you are prepared for bigger responsibilities. If you practice neglect in small things, bigger opportunities become burdens instead of blessings. Another powerful truth is that daily choices remove the burden of fear about the future. When you take responsibility today, tomorrow becomes less threatening. Anxiety often comes from knowing you are neglecting what you should be doing. Confidence grows when you know you are doing the simple things well. Day after day, the future feels uncertain only when the present is unmanaged. Order today creates clarity tomorrow. It's also important to understand that daily choices don't need to be extreme. They need to be consistent. Success doesn't require heroic effort every day. It requires honest effort every day. Doing what you said you would do, even when you don't feel like it, builds self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation of a powerful future. You cannot outperform your own self-image, and your self-image is shaped by the promises you keep to yourself daily. The tragedy is not that people dream too big, it's that they live too carelessly. They want a future they are not practicing for. But the beauty of life is that the future remains flexible as long as today is still available. Every morning brings a fresh set of choices, and those choices are more powerful than yesterday's mistakes. You don't change your future by worrying about it. You change it by changing what you do next. Daily choices are quiet, patient, and often boring, but they are faithful. They never miss a day. They never forget an order. They simply keep building, one decision at a time, until the future arrives and introduces you to the person you have been becoming all along through what you chose to do. When the day felt ordinary and the effort felt small and the results were not visible and the future was being shaped anyway, discipline is a quiet force with loud results. It rarely announces itself, rarely demands attention, and almost never feels exciting in the moment. Discipline works silently in the background, shaping habits, sharpening character, and preparing outcomes long before anyone notices. That is why most people overlook it. They are looking for something dramatic, something visible, something that feels powerful. Discipline does not feel powerful when you are practicing it. It feels ordinary. But time has a way of turning ordinary discipline into extraordinary results. Most people associate success with talent, intelligence, or luck, yet none of those can be sustained without discipline. Talent without discipline becomes potential wasted. Intelligence without discipline becomes knowledge unused. Luck without discipline becomes opportunity missed. Discipline is the force that turns what you have into what you become. It is not a single act, but a repeated decision to do what is necessary, even when it is inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unnoticed. The reason discipline is quiet is because it operates in moments no one applauds. Waking up early when it would be easier to stay in bed. Choosing to read when it would be easier to scroll. Practicing when it would be easier to quit. These moments don't look impressive from the outside, but they are shaping something powerful on the inside. Discipline is built in privacy, and its rewards are collected in public. What makes discipline so effective is that it removes dependence on motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Feelings change. Circumstances shift. Discipline remains. When you are disciplined, you don't ask whether you feel like doing the work. You ask whether the work needs to be done. This quiet commitment creates momentum, and momentum creates progress. Over time, discipline becomes a stabilizing force that keeps you moving forward regardless of emotional weather. Discipline also has a way of simplifying life. Undisciplined living is exhausting because it creates constant decision making, regret, and recovery. Discipline, on the other hand, creates order. When you decide in advance how you will live, you reduce stress and confusion. The more disciplined your habits, the fewer dramatic corrections your life requires. Discipline prevents problems before they become crises. Another reason discipline is underestimated is because its results are delayed. The effort is paid today, but the reward is delivered later. Most people prefer immediate pleasure over delayed satisfaction, and that preference quietly shapes their future. Discipline asks you to trade what you want now for what you want most. That trade is rarely celebrated in the moment, but it is always rewarded in the long run. The loud results of discipline eventually become impossible to ignore. People call it success, growth, confidence, or stability, but they rarely see the years of quiet effort that produced it. They see the outcome without understanding the process. What looks like a breakthrough is usually the result of countless disciplined decisions stacked together over time. Discipline doesn't create miracles. It creates margins, and those margins create opportunity. Discipline also builds self-trust. Every time you follow through on a commitment, you strengthen your belief in yourself. Every time you quit early or make excuses, that belief weakens. Confidence is not something you think your way into. It is something you earn through disciplined action. The more disciplined you become, the more you trust yourself. And that trust changes the way you approach life. There is also a deep sense of freedom that comes from discipline. At first, discipline feels restrictive, like rules and limitations. But over time, discipline creates options. Financial discipline creates freedom of choice. Health discipline creates physical energy. Time discipline creates opportunity. What feels like sacrifice in the beginning becomes independence in the end. Discipline costs you comfort today, but it pays you freedom tomorrow. Discipline does not require perfection. It requires direction. Missing a day does not destroy progress, but abandoning discipline does. The power lies in returning to the habit, not in never slipping. Discipline is not about being harsh with yourself. It is about being honest with yourself. It is choosing growth over excuses and responsibility over blame. One of the most powerful aspects of discipline is that it compounds silently. Each disciplined action strengthens the next one. What was once difficult becomes natural. What was once resisted becomes routine. Discipline eventually stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like identity. You don't just practice discipline. You become a disciplined person, and that identity influences every area of life. People often wait for discipline to feel good before committing to it. But discipline does not feel good at first. It feels heavy, repetitive, and unrewarded. The reward comes later, and when it arrives, it is loud. It shows up as respect, results, stability, and confidence. It shows up in the way others respond to you and the way you respond to challenges. In the end, discipline never shouts while it is working. It whispers through daily routines, quiet decisions, and unseen effort. But when enough time has passed, discipline lets the results speak for themselves. And by then the voice is unmistakable, echoing through every area of life as proof that the quiet force was shaping everything all along. Small habits practiced daily create massive life change. The mistake most people make is waiting for big moments to transform their lives, believing that change requires dramatic action or sudden breakthroughs. In reality, life rarely shifts in leaps. It moves in inches. The direction of a person's life is determined not by what they do occasionally, but by what they repeat consistently. Small habits are the steering wheel of life, quietly guiding the future, while most people are distracted by the road noise of quick results. A habit is powerful because it removes effort from decision making. Once something becomes a habit, it no longer requires constant motivation. It becomes automatic, almost invisible. This is why small habits matter so much. When a habit is practiced daily, it no longer depends on willpower. It depends on routine, and routine, when aimed in the right direction, produces progress even on days when energy is low and enthusiasm is missing. People often underestimate small habits because the results are not immediate. Reading a few pages today doesn't make you wise tomorrow. Exercising for 20 minutes today doesn't transform your body overnight. Saving a small amount today doesn't create instant wealth. Because the change is subtle, people quit too early. They fail to understand that habits are not designed to impress today. They are designed to prepare tomorrow. The payoff is delayed, but it is guaranteed for those who stay consistent. Small habits work because they compound. Each day adds a tiny layer, and those layers eventually become a foundation. Improvement of 1% per day may seem insignificant, but over time it becomes extraordinary. The problem is that humans are not naturally patient with invisible progress. We want proof quickly. But life does not reward urgency, it rewards consistency. The future is built slowly, one habit at a time. Another reason small habits are so effective is that they shape identity. Every habit is a vote for the type of person you are becoming. When you choose to read, you reinforce the identity of a learner. When you choose to exercise, you reinforce the identity of someone who values health. When you choose to plan your day, you reinforce the identity of someone who respects time. Over time, these identities become stronger than motivation. You don't act because you feel like it. You act because it's who you are. Small habits also lower the barrier to action. Large goals often feel overwhelming, which leads to procrastination. But small habits feel manageable. Anyone can take one step, make one call, read one page, or improve one skill for a few minutes. Small habits remove excuses by making progress feel possible. And once action begins, momentum follows. Momentum is a powerful force that turns effort into flow. What many people fail to see is that small negative habits work the same way. A little neglect practiced daily creates big problems over time. Poor eating habits, wasted time, negative thinking, and avoidance of responsibility may seem harmless in the moment, but they quietly shape a future filled with limitation. Life doesn't punish people suddenly. It responds gradually. What you repeat becomes what you experience. Small habits also protect you from burnout. Big changes fueled by emotion often collapse when motivation fades. Small habits fueled by discipline are sustainable. They fit into real life. They respect energy levels and allow growth without exhaustion. This is why lasting success always looks boring from the outside. It is not built on intensity, but on reliability. Daily habits also create confidence through evidence. Each completed habit, no matter how small, sends a signal to the mind that you are capable of progress. Confidence grows from keeping small promises to yourself. Over time, those small wins create belief, and belief expands what you think is possible. People with confidence are not braver by nature. They have simply practiced showing up more often. Small habits influence more than results. They influence perspective. When you practice daily growth, you start to see time differently. You stop chasing shortcuts and start respecting process. You become less reactive and more intentional. You understand that success is not rushed, it is earned. This mindset creates patience, resilience, and emotional stability, qualities that are essential for long-term achievement. Another powerful aspect of small habits is their ability to adapt. Life changes, circumstances shift, but small habits can adjust without collapsing. You may not always have the same resources, time, or energy, but you can almost always maintain a small, positive action. That consistency keeps you connected to growth, even during difficult seasons. The beauty of small habits is that they don't demand perfection. They demand presence. Missing a day is not failure, quitting is. The power lies in returning to the habit again and again. Over time, the habit becomes part of your lifestyle rather than a task you must force. Growth becomes normal, not special. Most people want a massive life change without committing to small daily practices. But life does not change at the speed of desire. It changes at the speed of habit. Every great transformation you admire is the result of small, often boring actions repeated long enough to become unstoppable. When you respect small habits, you stop waiting for motivation and start building momentum. And that momentum quietly reshapes your health, your mindset, your skills, your relationships, and your future in ways that feel sudden only to those who were not watching the daily practice that made it inevitable. Success is personal responsibility in action. It begins the moment a person decides to stop negotiating with excuses and start owning results. Responsibility is not about blame or guilt. It is about control. The moment you accept responsibility for your life, you reclaim the power to change it. Until then, improvement remains accidental and progress remains uncertain. Responsibility turns hope into strategy and intention into movement. Many people want success but resist responsibility because responsibility feels heavy. It removes the comfort of blaming circumstances, people, or the past. But blame has never improved a future. It only explains a present you no longer want. Responsibility, on the other hand, may feel demanding, but it is liberating. When you own the outcome, you own the ability to influence it. You no longer wait for permission, fairness, or perfect conditions. You begin where you are and work with what you have. Personal responsibility starts with understanding that no one is coming to rescue you. Not the economy, not the government, not your family, not luck. Support may help, but responsibility must lead. Every improvement in life requires someone to take ownership of effort, attitude, and behavior. Waiting to be motivated or inspired is simply delaying responsibility. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. One of the clearest signs of responsibility is the willingness to evaluate oneself honestly. Responsible people ask hard questions. What am I doing that is working? What am I doing that is not? What must I change? This kind of self-examination is uncomfortable, but it is productive. Denial feels easier, but it freezes growth. Responsibility confronts reality and uses it as raw material for progress. Success is not a mysterious reward given to the deserving. It is a predictable outcome for those who accept responsibility daily. How you manage your time, how you respond to setbacks, how you treat others, how you invest in your skills, all of these are choices. When you accept responsibility, you stop seeing these as reactions and start seeing them as decisions. Decisions can be improved. Reactions often repeat. Responsibility also changes the way you interpret failure. Without responsibility, failure becomes an excuse to quit or complain. With responsibility, failure becomes feedback. It shows you what needs adjustment. Responsible people don't ask why this happened to me. They ask, what can I learn from this? This shift in thinking transforms setbacks into stepping stones. Failure loses its power to define you and becomes a tool to refine you. Another powerful aspect of responsibility is that it builds credibility. People trust those who own their actions. They respect those who don't hide behind explanations. In leadership, in business, and in personal relationships, responsibility creates influence. People follow those who take ownership, not those who pass blame. Responsibility quietly positions you for opportunity because it signals reliability. Responsibility also strengthens discipline. When you stop making excuses, discipline becomes simpler. You no longer debate whether you should do what is required. You do it because it is your responsibility. This clarity removes mental fatigue. Life becomes less dramatic and more productive. You spend less time explaining and more time executing. Personal responsibility also restores self-respect. Nothing erodes confidence faster than knowing you are avoiding what you should be facing. And nothing builds confidence faster than doing what you said you would do. Each responsible action reinforces your belief in yourself. Over time, this creates inner stability that no external praise can replace. Many people confuse responsibility with limitation, believing it restricts freedom. In truth, responsibility creates freedom. When you are responsible with money, you gain financial choices. When you are responsible with health, you gain physical energy. When you are responsible with time, you gain opportunity. Responsibility is the price paid in advance for freedom later. It is also important to understand that responsibility does not mean you control everything. It means you control your response to everything. You may not choose all circumstances, but you choose how you interpret them, how you respond, and what you do next. That choice is always available, and it is powerful. Responsibility removes the habit of waiting for conditions to improve, waiting for others to change, waiting for confidence to arrive. Responsible people act before they feel ready. They understand that clarity comes through movement. Confidence is built through action. Momentum begins the moment responsibility replaces hesitation. Success, when stripped of all complexity, is simply the daily practice of taking responsibility for thoughts, actions, and outcomes. It is showing up when it would be easier to avoid. It is doing the work when no one is watching. It is choosing progress over comfort and ownership over excuses, day after day, until the results appear as a natural reflection of a person who decided to take full responsibility for the direction of their life. What you do every day eventually introduces you to who you become. Life does not surprise you at the end of the journey, it reveals you. The person you meet in the future is not a stranger, but the product of daily behavior practiced quietly over time. Most people imagine the future as something unknown and unpredictable. Yet the truth is that the future is being shaped in familiar ways through routine actions repeated again and again. Every day is a training ground. Each choice, no matter how small, is teaching you something about who you are becoming. The way you start your morning, the standards you accept, the conversations you avoid or engage in, the discipline you practice or neglect, all of it is shaping your identity. Identity is not something you declare once. It is something you demonstrate daily. You become what you repeatedly practice, not what you occasionally promise. People often believe they will decide who they are later, when circumstances improve or confidence increases. But character does not appear suddenly. It is built slowly through daily behavior. If you practice avoidance today, you will meet a person comfortable with avoidance tomorrow. If you practice discipline today, you will meet a person capable of responsibility tomorrow. The future version of you is not waiting for permission. It is being built through habit. The challenge is that daily actions feel insignificant in the moment. One decision does not seem powerful enough to define a life. But decisions do not work alone. They gather strength through repetition. Over time, patterns form, and patterns shape personality. What feels like a simple routine now becomes a defining trait later. The habits you keep today will eventually introduce you to a version of yourself you either respect or regret. Every action sends a message to the mind. When you keep a commitment, you reinforce trust in yourself. When you break one, you teach yourself that your word is negotiable. These lessons accumulate. Confidence is not built through thinking positively, but through evidence collected from daily follow-through. Self-doubt is not random. It often grows from repeated avoidance of responsibility. The person you become is also influenced by what you tolerate. What you allow repeatedly becomes normal. Poor standards accepted daily become permanent limitations. Strong standards practiced daily become strengths. The future you will not rise above the standards you accept today. Comfort has a quiet way of shaping identity, and growth has an even quieter way of shaping it back. Another powerful truth is that daily actions shape perspective. How you see the world tomorrow depends on how you engage with it today. If you practice gratitude, you develop awareness of opportunity. If you practice complaint, you develop awareness of obstacles. These perspectives feel natural over time, but they are trained responses. You are always rehearsing a way of thinking, whether you realize it or not. What you do every day also shapes emotional resilience. Small acts of discipline build strength long before challenges arrive. When difficulty appears, you do not rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your preparation. Daily effort builds emotional muscle. Without it, pressure exposes weakness. With it, pressure reveals strength that was quietly developed over time. People often hope to meet a confident, successful, peaceful version of themselves someday. But hope alone does not create that introduction. The meeting is arranged by daily behavior. The future version of you is watching what you do today, taking notes, preparing to reflect it back. You cannot escape this meeting. The only question is whether it will feel like a reunion or a confrontation. Daily actions also shape how others experience you. Reliability, trust, and respect are earned through consistent behavior. People form opinions not based on intentions, but on patterns. What you repeatedly do teaches others how to relate to you. Over time, your reputation becomes an external reflection of your internal habits. One of the most powerful realizations is that you don't need to know exactly who you want to become in the distant future. You only need to know what kind of actions move you in the right direction today. Growth is not about predicting the future. It is about preparing for it. Each disciplined action is a step toward a stronger introduction. The danger is assuming that change will happen automatically. Time alone does not transform character. Time simply reveals what has been practiced. If you practice neglect, time reveals decline. If you practice growth, time reveals progress. Time is not the creator. It is the amplifier of daily behavior. The beauty of this truth is that it restores control. You may not control all circumstances, but you control your daily actions, and those actions are shaping the person you are becoming. Every morning is an invitation to shape that future introduction. Every evening is a reflection of who you practiced being that day. What you do every day may feel ordinary, repetitive, and unnoticed, but it is quietly preparing a meeting with yourself that is unavoidable. When that moment arrives, the future will not ask what you intended, believed, or hoped. It will simply introduce you to the person you have been practicing to become through your daily actions, habits, and choices over time. Consistency matters more than intensity. Intensity feels powerful because it is emotional, dramatic, and visible. It shows up in bursts of effort, sudden motivation, and short periods of extreme action. Consistency, on the other hand, is quiet and repetitive. It does not attract attention. It does not create excitement, but it builds results that intensity alone can never sustain. Intensity may start the journey, but consistency is what carries it forward. Many people confuse effort with effectiveness. They believe that working hard for a short time should compensate for long periods of neglect. They push themselves intensely, burn out, stop, and then repeat the cycle. This pattern feels productive, but produces very little progress. Consistency breaks this cycle by focusing on steady effort rather than emotional surges. Small actions, repeated daily, outperform massive actions performed occasionally. Consistency works because it respects reality. Human energy fluctuates. Motivation rises and falls. Circumstances change. Consistent habits are designed to survive these changes. They are built to function even on low energy days. Intensity demands perfect conditions. Consistency adapts. That adaptability is what makes it powerful over time. Another reason consistency matters more is that it builds trust both internally and externally. When you show up consistently, you prove reliability. Your mind begins to trust your promises. Others begin to trust your word. Intensity may impress people once, but consistency earns respect. Results are built on trust, and trust is built on repetition. Consistency also removes the pressure of perfection. Intensity often demands flawless execution, which leads to frustration when reality falls short. Consistency accepts imperfection and prioritizes continuation. Missing a day does not end progress, quitting does. Consistency teaches resilience by encouraging you to return to the habit rather than abandon it. This mindset creates durability. Over time, consistency shapes identity. When you act consistently, you no longer see your behavior as something you are trying to do. You see it as something you are. This shift is powerful. Identity-driven behavior requires less effort than motivation-driven behavior. You don't need to convince yourself to act. Acting becomes natural. Consistency also creates compounding results. Each small action strengthens the next one. Skills improve gradually. Confidence grows steadily. Knowledge accumulates quietly. The progress may be invisible day to day, but it becomes undeniable over time. Intensity seeks quick wins. Consistency builds foundations. People often underestimate consistency because it lacks drama. There is nothing exciting about showing up every day and doing basic work. But greatness is rarely dramatic in the process. It is repetitive, methodical, and patient. The world celebrates breakthroughs, but forgets the years of consistent effort behind them. Consistency also protects against emotional decision-making. When you rely on intensity, your actions depend on how you feel. When you rely on consistency, your actions depend on your standards. Standards are more stable than emotions. This stability creates progress even during difficult seasons. Another powerful benefit of consistency is that it reduces stress. Intensity creates pressure to perform at extreme levels. Consistency spreads effort evenly over time. This creates balance and sustainability. A life built on consistency is easier to manage than a life built on constant extremes. Consistency also creates clarity. When you act regularly, patterns become visible. You can evaluate what works and what doesn't. Intensity creates chaos because it is unpredictable. Consistency creates order, and order creates insight. People often wait for intensity to feel ready. They wait for motivation, inspiration, or urgency. Consistency begins without waiting. It accepts that progress is possible even when conditions are not ideal. This acceptance removes delay and creates momentum. Another important truth is that consistency makes success repeatable. Intensity may create a single win, but consistency creates a system. Systems produce results again and again. Sustainable success is not about occasional triumphs. It is about reliable performance. Consistency also builds emotional strength. Showing up daily, even when it feels ordinary, trains patience and discipline. These qualities are essential for long-term success. Intensity trains excitement. Consistency trains endurance. The future does not reward occasional effort. It responds to repeated behavior. What you practice consistently becomes who you are. What you do intensely but rarely becomes a memory. Time amplifies consistency and exposes inconsistency. In the long run, the people who win are not the most intense. They are the most consistent. They keep going when excitement fades. They show up when results are slow. They continue when others stop. And that quiet persistence, repeated day after day, creates outcomes that look extraordinary only because so few were willing to remain consistent long enough for the results to appear. Your routine is a vote for your future self. Every day, whether you are aware of it or not, you are participating in an election that never ends. Each habit, each decision, each repeated action is casting a vote for the person you will eventually become. There is no neutral vote. Doing nothing is still choosing something. What you practice daily is shaping a future version of you that will either thank you or wish you had acted differently. A routine may seem harmless because it feels familiar. Familiarity creates comfort, and comfort creates blindness. People stop questioning what they do every day because it feels normal. But normal is not the same as helpful. A routine repeated long enough becomes a powerful force, shaping energy, mindset, health, and opportunity. The future does not ask what you intended. It responds to what you repeated. Every routine reinforces an identity. When you wake up and immediately seek distraction, you are voting for a future self that struggles with focus. When you plan your day, you are voting for a future self that values direction. When you take care of your body, you are voting for a future self with strength and energy. These votes may feel small, but elections are not decided by one dramatic moment. They are decided by consistent participation. People often hope their future self will somehow be more disciplined, more confident, or more successful than they are today. But the future self is not separate from the present one. It is a continuation. The habits you keep now are the training for the person you will be later. You cannot expect a disciplined future without practicing discipline now. Hope without routine is imagination without structure. Routines are powerful because they reduce friction. Once a behavior becomes part of a routine, it no longer requires constant decision-making. This means your routine determines what happens on your hardest days. When motivation is low, routine takes over. That is why routines deserve careful attention. They are not just schedules. They are systems that quietly govern your behavior. Your routine also shapes your standards. What you accept daily becomes the baseline for what you tolerate. If your routine includes rushing, neglect, and avoidance, stress becomes normal. If your routine includes preparation, learning, and reflection, growth becomes normal. The future you will not exceed the standards you practice daily. Another important truth is that routines create momentum. Starting is often the hardest part of any task. A routine eliminates the struggle of starting because it creates rhythm. Once momentum is built, progress becomes easier. This momentum compounds over time, making growth feel natural rather than forced. Routines also influence how you experience time. When your days lack structure, time feels chaotic and scarce. When your days have routine, time feels intentional and available. A strong routine does not make life rigid. It makes it purposeful. It creates space for what matters by reducing waste. Your routine also affects emotional stability. Predictable habits create a sense of control in an unpredictable world. When challenges arise, a solid routine provides an anchor. It reminds you that progress is still possible, even during uncertainty. Without routine, stress multiplies because every day feels like starting over. People often underestimate routines because they seem boring. But boring is often where growth hides. Excitement fades, but routine remains. The most successful people are not driven by constant inspiration. They are guided by well-designed routines. These routines quietly support progress, even when enthusiasm is absent. Another powerful aspect of routine is that it creates self-trust. When you follow a routine, you keep promises to yourself. Each promise kept strengthens confidence. Over time, this trust becomes internal stability. You no longer rely on external validation because you know you can rely on yourself. Routines also shape how others perceive you. Consistency in behavior builds reputation. People learn what to expect from you based on your patterns. Trust, respect, and opportunity often follow those who demonstrate reliable routines. Success is rarely given to those who are unpredictable. It is also important to understand that routines are adjustable. You are not trapped by your current habits. You can change your vote at any time, but change requires awareness and intention. You must examine your routine honestly and ask what kind of future self it is supporting. Every morning, your routine begins casting votes again. Not for popularity, not for comfort, but for character, capability, and direction. These votes are quiet and repetitive, but they are powerful. Over time, they decide the outcome. Your future self is being built quietly through what you repeatedly do today. Long before the results show up, the votes are being counted. And one day, without warning, the election ends and the future arrives. Reflecting the routines you chose, the habits you practiced, and the daily votes you cast for the person you were becoming all along. Discipline today reduces regret tomorrow. Regret is one of the heaviest emotions a person can carry. Not because of what happened, but because of what didn't. Most regret is not born from failure. It is born from neglect. It comes from knowing you could have acted, prepared, or committed, but chose comfort instead. Discipline is the quiet antidote to that pain. It does not guarantee an easy life, but it dramatically reduces the weight of future regret. Regret grows in the absence of discipline. When people avoid doing what they know they should do, they may feel temporary relief, but that relief is borrowed from the future. Discipline asks you to pay the price, now so you don't pay a heavier price later. The cost of discipline is discomfort. The cost of regret is permanent dissatisfaction. One is temporary, the other lingers. Most people don't plan to live with regret. It accumulates slowly, decision by decision. Skipped opportunities, delayed action, ignored responsibilities. Each choice seems small at the time, but together they form a pattern. Discipline interrupts that pattern. It creates a habit of acting in alignment with long-term values rather than short-term feelings. When you practice discipline, you may struggle in the moment, but you gain peace later. Discipline gives you the ability to look back without self-betrayal. Even when outcomes are not perfect, disciplined effort creates pride. You may not always win, but you won't wonder if you tried. That certainty is powerful. Regret thrives on unanswered questions. What if I had started earlier? What if I had stayed consistent? What if I had taken responsibility? Discipline answers those questions before they ever become painful. Another truth about discipline is that it protects you from emotional decisions. Many regrets are born in moments of emotion, fear, anger, or laziness. Discipline creates structure that overrides impulse. It doesn't eliminate emotion, but it prevents emotion from controlling direction. When discipline leads, you don't have to clean up as many emotional messes later. Discipline today also reduces regret by building capability. Regret often comes from being unprepared when opportunity arrives. Opportunities do not wait for readiness. They appear, test you, and move on. Discipline prepares you quietly so that when the moment comes, you are not left wishing you had done more earlier. Preparation is invisible until it is missing. People often believe they will regret doing too much, but more often people regret doing too little. Rarely does someone say they regret taking care of their health, learning a skill, saving money, or building character. They regret not starting sooner. Discipline moves the starting line forward. It replaces someday with today. Discipline also reduces regret in relationships. Many regrets come from words not spoken, effort not shown, and time not given. Discipline in communication, patience, and presence builds stronger connections. It prevents the regret of realizing too late that relationships were neglected while distractions were prioritized. Another reason discipline reduces regret is that it builds integrity. Integrity is the alignment between what you believe and how you behave. When those two are disconnected, regret grows. When they are aligned, peace follows. Discipline is the bridge between belief and behavior. It helps you live in a way that feels honest. Living honestly reduces internal conflict. And internal conflict is the seed of regret. Discipline does not make life perfect, but it makes life intentional. Regret often comes from drifting, from letting life happen instead of choosing how to live. Discipline puts you back in the driver's seat. It gives direction to effort and meaning to sacrifice. Even difficult seasons feel different when you know you are doing what must be done. It is also important to understand that discipline is not about harshness. It is about care for your future self. Every disciplined action is an act of respect toward the person you will become. It is saying, I will not leave you unprepared. I will not trade your future for my comfort today. That mindset transforms discipline from punishment into protection. Many people fear discipline because they think it will limit their freedom. In reality, discipline limits regret. It creates choices later by creating structure now. The freedom people seek tomorrow is built through discipline they avoid today. Regret is the interest paid on undisciplined living. Discipline today also changes how you age emotionally. As time passes, those who avoided responsibility often grow bitter, while those who practice discipline grow grounded. One looks back with frustration, the other with acceptance. Acceptance does not come from perfection, it comes from effort. Regret asks painful questions. Discipline quietly answers them in advance. When you live with discipline, you may still face challenges, but you won't face the haunting feeling that you abandoned your own potential. You will know that whatever the outcome, you showed up, you tried, and you acted with intention. The future will eventually ask what you did with your time, your ability, and your opportunities. Discipline today prepares your answer. And when tomorrow becomes yesterday, and reflection replaces urgency, the presence or absence of regret will be traced back to the small disciplined choices you made when no one was watching and comfort was tempting and inconvenient. Most people believe that greatness is formed in rare moments of opportunity, pressure, or recognition. They wait for a defining event to prove themselves. But life does not shape character in emergencies. It reveals it. Character is shaped quietly in the ordinary, repetitive, uncelebrated days where no one is watching and nothing dramatic seems to be happening. An ordinary day may feel insignificant, but it is the most honest environment you will ever face. There is no applause, no deadline forcing performance, no audience demanding excellence. What you choose to do on these days reveals your true standards. Anyone can rise for a big moment. Few are willing to show discipline when the day feels routine. Yet it is in these routine moments that strength is built. Extraordinary lives are not the result of extraordinary days. They are the result of ordinary days handled with care. How you manage your energy, your time, your focus, and your attitude on a normal day determines your readiness for bigger responsibilities. Ordinary days are where habits are formed, refined, and reinforced. They are the rehearsal for moments that matter. Most people underestimate ordinary days because the rewards are not immediate. There is no visible payoff for doing the basics well today. But every ordinary day is either preparing you or weakening you. There is no pause button on development. You are always becoming something, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Ordinary days are constantly shaping capacity. Another reason ordinary days matter is because they make up most of life. Waiting for rare moments to perform well means neglecting the majority of your time. Excellence is not an occasional act. It is a way of living. The people who handle ordinary days, well, don't panic under pressure because they have practiced consistency. When pressure was absent, Ordinary days also teach patience. Progress made in small increments trains the ability to stay committed without immediate reward. This patience becomes a competitive advantage. Many quit simply because they grow tired of waiting for results. Those who understand the value of ordinary days keep going, knowing that progress is being made even when it cannot be seen. Another powerful truth is that ordinary days test integrity. When no one is watching, standards are either upheld or abandoned. Integrity is not proven in public victories, but in private routines. What you do when no one demands excellence determines whether excellence is real or performative. Ordinary days strip away performance and expose authenticity. Ordinary days also build emotional resilience. When life feels repetitive, it can become tempting to disengage. But showing up consistently, even when the day feels dull, strengthens mental endurance. This endurance is essential for handling setbacks, delays, and disappointment. Without it, challenges feel overwhelming. With it, challenges feel manageable. People often confuse excitement with progress. They chase stimulation instead of stability. But stability is built on the willingness to do unexciting work repeatedly. Ordinary days demand maturity. They ask you to find meaning in consistency rather than novelty. This maturity separates those who grow from those who drift. Ordinary days also reveal priorities. When there is no urgency, what you choose to do shows what truly matters to you. Do you invest in learning, or do you escape into distraction? Do you take care of responsibilities, or do you postpone them? These choices are not neutral. They are shaping the future quietly. Another important aspect of ordinary days is that they allow correction. Small mistakes noticed early can be adjusted easily. Ordinary days give you the opportunity to refine habits before consequences grow. Ignoring discipline on ordinary days leads to major problems on important days. Preparation prevents panic. Ordinary days also create identity. You don't become extraordinary by acting extraordinary once. You become extraordinary by practicing ordinary excellence. Over time, this excellence becomes normal. What once required effort becomes automatic. This transformation is invisible from the outside, but powerful on the inside. People often look at successful individuals and assume they thrive under pressure. What they don't see is that pressure feels familiar to them because they trained during calm periods. Ordinary days gave them the skills, confidence, and stability needed to perform when it mattered. Ordinary days also teach humility. They remind you that growth is not glamorous. It is earned through patience, repetition, and discipline. This humility keeps ego in check and keeps focus on process rather than recognition. It prevents complacency and encourages continuous improvement. Life does not announce when an ordinary day is becoming an important one. Opportunity often arrives quietly. Those who have wasted ordinary days are unprepared. Those who respected them are ready. The difference is not talent or luck, but preparation. Extraordinary lives are not built by waiting for extraordinary moments. They are built by honoring ordinary days, showing up when it feels routine, and doing the simple things well when no one is watching. Over time, these days accumulate, forming strength, skill, and character that appear extraordinary only because so few people were willing to treat ordinary days as the training ground they truly are. Your direction is determined by what you practice daily. Life does not move according to what you admire, intend, or talk about most. It moves according to what you repeatedly do. Direction is not chosen once. It is reinforced every day through action. Whether you are moving forward, standing still, or drifting backward is revealed by your daily practices, not your long-term plans. Many people believe direction comes from big decisions, but big decisions only set the intention. Daily practice determines whether that intention becomes reality. You can decide to improve your life, but if your daily behavior does not change, your direction will not change either. Direction is not a thought, it is a pattern, and patterns are formed by repetition. Every practice carries momentum. What you repeat gains strength, speed, and influence. If you practice discipline, discipline becomes easier. If you practice avoidance, avoidance becomes automatic. Direction is shaped quietly because habits rarely feel dramatic. But time amplifies whatever you practice. What feels small today becomes dominant tomorrow. Daily practice also removes confusion about where your life is headed. When you are honest with yourself, you don't need to guess your future. You can observe your habits, your schedule, your priorities, your conversations, and your routines are all pointing somewhere. They are signaling your direction long before results appear. The future is not mysterious when the present is examined closely. One of the most important truths about direction is that it does not require intensity. It requires alignment. Practicing the right things consistently moves you forward. Even when progress feels slow, practicing the wrong things consistently moves you away from where you want to go, even if you stay busy. Being busy is not the same as being directed. Motion without purpose is simply movement. Daily practice shapes mindset as well as outcomes. The way you think tomorrow depends on what you feed your mind today. If you practice learning, reflection, and responsibility, clarity increases. If you practice distraction, complaint, and excuse making, confusion grows. Direction is both external and internal. Your actions shape your thinking, and your thinking reinforces your actions. Another powerful aspect of daily practice is that it builds or erodes confidence. Confidence does not come from knowing what to do. It comes from practicing what you know. Each day you follow through strengthens belief. Each day you avoid responsibility weakens it. Confidence influences direction because confident people take action, while uncertain people hesitate. Daily practice also determines your response to challenges. When difficulty arises, you do not suddenly become disciplined or resilient. You rely on what you have practiced. Pressure does not create character. It reveals it. If you practice calm, preparation, and problem-solving daily, challenges feel manageable. If you practice panic, delay, and avoidance, challenges feel overwhelming. People often hope their direction will improve naturally over time. But time does not improve direction. Time simply magnifies practice. Years will pass whether you are intentional or not. The question is whether those years will deepen skill or deepen regret. Direction does not change by accident. It changes when practice changes. What you practice daily also determines your standards. Standards guide decisions, and decisions guide direction. When you practice high standards, you refuse to settle. When you practice low standards, you accept less than you are capable of. Standards are not declared, they are demonstrated. What you tolerate repeatedly becomes your normal. Another truth is that daily practice determines growth speed. Growth is not limited by opportunity as much as it is limited by preparation. Opportunity often arrives suddenly. Practice prepares you quietly. When preparation is lacking, opportunity feels overwhelming. When preparation is strong, opportunity feels natural. Direction is influenced by readiness. Daily practice also affects how others respond to you. People trust and invest in those who demonstrate consistent behavior. Reliability creates opportunity. Unpredictability creates hesitation. Over time, your practices shape your reputation, and your reputation influences the doors that open or close. Direction is not only personal, it is relational. It is also important to understand that daily practice does not need to be perfect. It needs to be honest. Missing a day does not reverse direction. Quitting does. The power lies in returning to the practice. Direction is maintained through persistence, not perfection. Every morning offers a quiet opportunity to reinforce direction. You may not feel inspired. You may not see results. But practice continues working regardless of feeling. The future is patient. It waits for consistency to reveal itself. Your direction today is not determined by what you hope will happen later. It is determined by what you practice now. Every habit is a step. Every routine is a signal. Every repeated action is pointing somewhere. And over time, without drama or warning, the direction becomes distance. The distance becomes destination. And the destination reflects exactly what you chose to practice day after day. If this speech inspired you, like the video, subscribe for more powerful motivational content. Share it with someone who needs discipline in their life, and comment DISC Palai me to commit to your future today.